Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to this solo edition of the Bengal Tiger Recruiting Podcast. I am Billy Embody here in San Antonio, where the weather's been lovely for us at the All America Bowl practices. The game is set for Saturday at noon on NBC, so you can check out 5 future Tigers in that game on Saturday. It's one of the biggest showcases of the All-Star season. Just wrapped up watching the Under Armour game on Tuesday night. Saw some of the guys play in that one. Ryan Yates, so Lance Hurd, Shelton Sampson was nicked up early in the week, and the Tigers also were without Deshaun Womack being able to participate in that one as well. But JV Toviano, the four-star defensive back and one of LSU's newest additions, got into that contest. I'll be talking with Shea Dixon a little bit more about that. But what I'm here to do is kind of run down the first 2 days of practice for the East and West. Some of the takeaways initially for the LSU guys that are here in attendance. And we'll also talk with Shea later this week, more so, about what's going on with the transfer portal world for LSU as well, with Demario Tolan, the linebacker, entering the portal Wednesday morning. Woke up to that news, but there was some good news from Wednesday. Jay Bramblett, the punter, did announce his return to LSU. So without further ado, let's jump into some of the takeaways. And I want to lead off with the guy who I think out of the LSU signees has had the best week so far, and that is Whit Weeks, the four-star linebacker for us at On3 out of Oconee County in Georgia. He's set to be an early enrollee and head straight from here pretty much to Baton Rouge and enroll and get in there for spring ball. I think he's really somebody that, one, we moved him up in the rankings at the start of his senior year. After seeing the first few games, he played all over for Oconee County, played running back, returned kicks for touchdowns, was dominant on defense. And we're seeing a lot of that movement skills here in San Antonio. He's playing against, quite honestly, some of the best running backs in the country. Alabama signee Justice Haynes, who's, in my opinion, really, really, really good. He matched up with him and had a really good rep. Justice Haynes kind of ran an out route against him. And was able to make the reception, but Weeks flashed. And that was where I kind of knew, okay, the athleticism that we've seen on tape, playing as a senior, really manifested itself out here in San Antonio. And he's backed that up throughout the rest of practices. I got a chance to watch, and this is Wednesday morning, got a chance to watch him in some run fits with some inside run drills. And he's somebody that is going to have to add weight. He kind of got into the mix a little bit. He's not afraid to put his head in there. He is a football guy. But in terms of what he'll need to do, he'll need to add some weight just so he can shed and release, guys like, that are coming at him, like DJ Chester, LSU's four-star offensive line signee. Saw them get into a little battle in that inside run drill, as well as some of the other highly touted guys on the offensive line that are here. But really, his athleticism is what stands out. And when you kind of project players just overall, you want to see that athleticism first. You want to know that they can put it together on the football field under the lights. But that's half the battle, is being athletic enough to play in the best conference in college football. And Whit Weeks has that. And he has that football mindset. His dad played football at Georgia. Obviously, his brother Wes is a linebacker at LSU right now. And his younger brother is coming up at Oconee County as well. So there's more of the Weeks family to come in the future. So Whit really shined with that athleticism, ability to run and diagnose. That's what stands out to me so far here in San Antonio. I think that's the biggest part that he's going to bring, is somebody that can run and cover. He moves around really well. He, gets deep in his drops quickly when he needs to flash to the flats. He's very, very quick in that regard as well. He had a nice breakup on a deep pass play intended for Brandon Ennis, the Ohio State wide receiver signee, who's really, really good as well. So he's flashed in different ways, but I would say his athleticism is what really stands out to me. He's just able to kind of do it all in terms of how he's able to run around and be all over the field. He, in my mind, at least so far, looks like a true sideline to sideline guy. And as he adds weight with the strength and conditioning program at LSU, he's going to be a good one in my mind. So that's the one that stands out right now to me. I'll move on to the pass catchers. That's always who really, a lot of people ask the most questions about. And I'll start with Ka'Morreun Pimpton. I just got done talking to him on the field. He kept his recruitment very close to the vest. down the stretch. He didn't talk to many people. There weren't interviews after visits. Really, with his LSU one, I think he kind of did one interview, and that was kind of it. And Texas pushed for him, and there weren't any interviews that I saw after that. So it was good to catch up with him. And, I'd seen him play in his final high school game when North Crowley lost to Prosper in the playoffs in Texas. And what a senior year he had. I think he finished with 17, 18 touchdowns on the year, over 1,000 yards receiving. So just a dominant player at the highest level of Texas high school football. So he comes in as a late ad for the All-American Bowl. In that tight end room, they needed to find someone. And I tell you what, he looks the part out here. Measured in at about 6'6.5". He's got an insane wingspan with 36.5-inch arms. His hands measured in, I believe, a bit over 10 inches, which is just insane. So you see all of this, and you see this Greek god, quite honestly, running around out there on the football field, and you want to know, can he put everything together and catch the football? Obviously, he did that at the high school level very, very well. As a senior this past year, blowing up. He's now the number 6 tight end in the country for On3. I believe we're the highest on him at this point by far. He might have moved up somewhere along the lines, but I know we're really, really high on him. I love the way he moves around. He's able to run really well. He's a willing blocker. He's gotten into the mix. He's not afraid to put his head in there. And so that stands out to me, just watching him move around. He's gotten some opportunities to catch the ball, and he looks pretty natural at it. And sometimes it's awkward for a guy that size to be able to catch it the right way, not body it. Sometimes you want to see them be strong with their hands, and he's got that. And so I'm excited to see how he puts it all together in the game. If he gets opportunities, this is a tight end group that's pretty solid in my mind. Pierce Spurlin, the Georgia signee, has been dominant. There's Jelani McDonald out there as well, who I think is set to commit to Texas this weekend, most likely the 4-star athlete out of Waco Connolly. So it's a good group, and for him to stand out says a lot. So Brian Kelly and his staff, as a quick aside, just did a really nice job recruiting him. Talking with him, I said, hey, did it mean anything to you that they offered in October as your senior year really started to pick up? And did that kind of impact how you viewed them as they came in, quote unquote, late after Vanderbilt had come in so early on you and gotten him committed over the summer? And he said, yes. Cortez Hankton was actually the one that was able to, start that process and was, in contact with him very, very early on. And as they went through the process, they just said, hey, look, take your time, go through your playoffs, and come on a visit and see if you like it. And even leading up to that visit, it was one of those things where, is he going to show up? We'd heard the buzz, but we hadn't heard it from Ka'Morreun, really. And so he comes to campus. He said he loved it. And there wasn't ever any pressure from the staff. Like, hey, you need to flip. We got to go somewhere else if you don't, or, all those things that sometimes down the stretch, if you're really, really pushing for a guy, that can kind of push them away. In a way. And so Ka'Morreun Pimpton said that was one thing that really stood out to him, is just that gentle push in a way that, hey, we want you. We really like what you bring to the table. But it's your decision, and we respect, how you want to be recruited down the stretch here. He has a lot of respect for Vanderbilt, and still does. So that really stood out to me. He's very, very well spoken. I told him after we got done, if this football thing doesn't work out, you could end up in a broadcast booth. So really enjoyed getting to know him this week and watching him perform. And then Jalen Brown, the 4-star wide receiver who ended up signing with LSU. There was rumors about Miami or Florida State or Texas A&M, Georgia down the stretch. And he told me, look, all those schools were calling right in the final days leading up to his signing ceremony. And in the end, he just said it ended up not being close for me. I really just loved what Brian Kelly and that staff and Coach Hankton put together. Year one was really important. We bought into the vision, and he signed. Now he's here in San Antonio, and he looks really smooth in his routes. And he's one of the fastest guys out here. He got behind a couple guys today for deep balls and did that on Tuesday as well. I watched a good bit of his practice. Had a couple drops in practice on Wednesday that I'm sure he'd like back, but I think he's really shown that smooth route runner, that explosiveness that you want to see. So he's somebody that didn't end up having the best senior year. They had some quarterback play issues at Gulliver Prep, but I think out here he looks pretty smooth. Quite honestly, that's the best way for me to describe him. He's not robotic. He's not choppy. He's just really smooth. And so I think he's going to be somebody that could very well factor in early on now that Kayshon Boutte is out the door, maybe break into that two deep as a freshman. There's a lot of talent at LSU coming back with Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., Kyron Lacey, and guys like that. But Jalen Brown, if he can put on some weight, kind of withstand getting in the mix, sometimes that SEC physicality of those defensive backs that have been there a while and been in weight rooms could play a factor. You want to see him get stronger. I think the drops are a little bit of a concern for me early on this week, but I really only saw that on Wednesday, and it was in some live settings. So something to pay attention to as the week unfolds. They've been working him. This is a wide receiver group that's very talented, but he's definitely in that top rotation for the East All-Star team here in San Antonio. So I like what I see from Jalen Brown. I saw him as a senior make his debut for Gulliver Prep, and now I've seen him in the All-American Bowl, and he looks like he belongs. So good prospect that LSU held on to late with plenty of schools coming after him. And then you go to DJ Chester. I went and saw him right before he ended up making his commitment to LSU. And again, another guy that told me, it ended up not being close. I just really like what Brian Kelly and Brad Davis have going for them. This week, he's working at center, working with Connor Liu, another highly touted offensive lineman for the East team at that center position. And I tell you what, he's one of the bigger guys you'll see at center. Sometimes in these all-star games, you see a center that might be a little undersized. I remember seeing Cole Smith way back in the day at the Under Armour game. This is not the case. DJ Chester is a big boy in the middle, very comfortable calling the signals out. And for as big as he is, very comfortable snapping the football. I was really impressed with what I saw from him, just his consistency and his snap count, willingness to communicate in the middle. Sometimes when they get in there and they're in the team setting and they're still working through these playbooks, he's in there and, he'll get the sign from the quarterback and then kind of look over, look down, look over and just check and make sure things are all in place for these guys. So I'm excited to see what he does. He has a really good understanding, I think, of what's being asked of him in the middle. Whenever they're doing their run game, working their run game a little bit, he's always very sure to make sure he turns the way they want to. And I know that sounds very basic, but he over exaggerates it. And I think that stands out. I was impressed with him. I saw a couple of reps in one-on-ones during the joint practice on Wednesday. He went against Anthony James, I believe both times. He might have gone against somebody else the second time, but he had a good rep against Anthony James the first time, and then stonewalled that second rep. So I was impressed with him. I think he's physically ready. He's somebody that's going to arrive in June at LSU. Jalen Brown, by the way, is going to be there in January as well, so he'll get a jump on things with the coaching staff. And I just really like where he's at as far as physically, as far as what's being asked of him. We had heard that he's an interior guy for LSU. There's no doubt about that. And physically, he looks the part. He played right tackle in the state of Georgia this year during his senior season. And I think, that was a good spot for him at the high school level to kind of anchor that right side. And he was on an offensive line that had Zachariah Owens, another highly touted offensive lineman. So he played that right tackle spot well. Now he moves inside. I think it's a natural spot. You look at the center position. Charles Turner got hurt in the bowl game. Marlon Martinez came in. I think that's a position that maybe not year one, because I do think even though Will Campbell and Emory Jones came in and certainly played well for freshmen, that's not necessarily what you want. You don't necessarily want that type of expectation for your true freshman walking in every year and having to play a lot. There are veteran guys that are going to be in there for that center spot and battling away. But I will say, DJ Chester looks like a bona fide center. He reminds me a little bit of Lloyd Cushenberry. I'm not trying to put those expectations on him because I think Lloyd is one of the best centers you're going to see come through LSU, for years. That's how much I think of him. But DJ Chester looks like a natural at it here in San Antonio. So I've been very impressed with him. And then Michael Daugherty, another early enrollee, safety out of Grayson High School. Very, very, very good program in the Peach State. And he's been playing a little corner, playing a little nickel, playing a little safety. I think you're going to see him for the most part at that safety position for the game on Saturday. So be sure to watch for him. He's somebody that I think has to get a little bit faster, some speed development at LSU. I know when he's been matched up in one-on-ones, and again, this is the best of the best in terms of receivers. You've got Carnell Tate, you've got Brandon Ennis, you've got Jalen Brown. You have all these guys running around out here that are really, really talented and can really go. And we've seen that at times where they've gotten the best of him in terms of speed. He's not afraid to mix it up. He's not afraid to get physical. He needs to add some size to him. I think he's going to play that nickel safety role at LSU and, be able to be somebody that's reliable on special teams. I'm interested to see how, as the week goes on, he grows and progresses, because even though these practices and these, all-American games are very sometimes in a vacuum, right? 5 days or so between the practices starting and then the game getting going. But you can see growth. You can see these guys settle in and say, you know what, I can do this. I can play at this level. So I'm excited to see what Michael Daugherty brings to the table the rest of the week. He has kind of been touch and go at times early in the week, but I can see what LSU saw in him as far as a nickel safety and somebody that can play multiple positions in the secondary as they rebuild, quite frankly, that whole room at those multiple spots. So that's the rundown on the 5 guys that are here in San Antonio, halfway through practices. They'll go again on Thursday. They'll go again for a walkthrough on Friday. They'll have an awards dinner on Friday night, and then the game at noon Central on NBC. So wanted to stop in, share some thoughts. We've been posting our takeaways, and we'll have interviews with all these guys at thebengaltiger.com. Check us out. The new deal is out. $1 for a year is gone, but the hats are still available. The Bengal Tiger Founders Club hats are still available. What you can do now is jump on board for $30, and that gets you on board with us until September 1st. So take advantage of that deal. It's still a pretty good deal. It works out to be a couple bucks a month. So check it out at thebengaltiger.com. Hit that subscribe button to our YouTube channel. Tons of highlights. I've been clipping those things together all week to kind of stay ahead of it, because we get so much on each of these guys that are going to be suiting up for LSU here in San Antonio. So be sure to subscribe to the Bengal Tiger YouTube channel for more highlights from All-American Bowl. We'll be back later this week with another edition of the podcast as LSU gets back from the Citrus Bowl. We get settled back in as well now that we're well into the new year and starting off fast with all-star games and transfer portal news. So subscribe. There are some visitors coming into LSU this weekend. Don't miss out on the scoop on those guys. Be sure to subscribe to the site. We will catch you guys later this week with another edition of the podcast. You won't have to listen to just me babble on. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will catch you guys next time on the Bengal Tiger podcast. Thanks for listening.